Hey, folks, for episode number 56 of the Rental Roundtable, we had on Carol Fontanez. She's the rental manager at Jamco. She's been there for 11 years. Also, the current ARA Florida president, been doing that role for 3 years. Always love talking to Carol. She just has so much energy and enthusiasm for the rental industry as a whole. She's very big on relationships and how do we all help each other get better together. So if you see her at a different event, definitely say hi to Carol. Ton of energy. Really enjoyed the conversation today. Talked about the power of relationships, talk about integrity and hard work, and really just sticking to something for a long period of time can make you successful in rental, which is not very any different than anything else you see in life. We talked about her role at the ARA Florida, the event coming up here in July. We've talked about how you protect your fleet against theft and stolen equipment. Overall, just a really awesome episode. Love spending time with Carol. Hope you guys enjoy. All right, everyone, welcome to the Rental Roundtable, episode number 56. We've got on Carol Fontanez. Carol, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Kyle. It's great to be here. An honor to be here.
Yes, excited. I know your husband too, and obviously you've been at Jamco as a rental manager for 11 years. Current ARA Florida president. We'll talk about. Obviously met you last summer at the ARA Florida event in July, which was awesome. So a quick plug: you guys are having it again this year. We'll have people there as well. What are the dates for the show this year?
Yes, so the event is starting July 25th and it goes through the 27th.
Yes. So I love, obviously, the national shows. The ARA are awesome. The state level shows are way more intimate and sometimes more fun. So I know Elliot Vigil is going to be there. I actually just had lunch 30 minutes ago with your friend Josh Nickel, who told me to tell you hi in Atlanta. So Josh, if you're listening to this episode, text me so I know that you listened to it.
Yeah.
I know he's going to be there. So we'll have some folks there too. So looking forward to that event. In Florida this summer. It'll be warm and go to the beach and learn about rental. So it'll be fun. So I'd love to start with your story and how you sort of got to where you are today. Maybe you could tell us maybe even work backwards. Like tell us what you are doing today at Jamco. What is Jamco? You're the rental manager. What's the company do today? What's your current responsibilities? And then let's kind of go backwards to how you even got here to begin with.
Okay, so the main product for Jamco is industrial battery chargers. So we manufacture our own chargers, and rentals and used and new sales are a separate department, along with service. And just actually, it'll be a year and a couple of weeks, we added the trucking side. So to tell you to narrow down what I do at Jamco is really hard because I wear many hats. Yeah. But my main role at Jamco is the rental department, and I've been doing that for 11 years.
11 years in rental. So you guys aren't only a rental company. So a lot of people we talk to are only rental, or some do rental in sales or rental sales and service. Is that less than half of the revenue for your company? Or how important is it to Jamco?
It is very important if you ask me.
Yeah.
It is probably less than half, yes, because the main product is the charger, the charger side of Jamco. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, so obviously you're in charge of rental and running the rental component. What's that like inside of a company that's not only doing rental? Like, do you feel like you get the resources you need? Do you feel like you're at a disadvantage to like pure play rental companies, or is it actually maybe at an advantage for some of the other services you offer? Like, how do you view that?
That's a good question, Kyle. I've never really thought about it being a disadvantage because I focus solely on although I wear many hats, my focus is rentals. I kind of make it the Carol show. So I never really think about anything else aside from the rental department of Jamco. So the only disadvantage for me that I see is if I'm up against a big company like, Sunbelt or United or something like that, because they carry stuff that we don't. But other than that, I really don't really think about it as a disadvantage.
Yeah. Well, you got a lot going on. Wear many hats. Even before we got on, you were saying I just had the week spin. It's been a month, right? A lot going on. And that's a lot of rental companies we talk to, right? They're very busy. It's if you have ADD, it's a fun place to work because you kind of bounce around doing a lot of different things. It's not a normal desk job where you're sitting there, twiddling your thumbs typically. Appreciate the overview, kind of what you're doing today. How did you get into rental? Obviously you've been at Jamco as a rental manager for 11 years. Like, how did you get into this? Is this what you thought you were going to do when you were a kid? Like, tell me about that.
No, not at all. Actually, when I was growing up, I wanted to be a teacher. And
Hmm.
thank God I was not directed. I would have been the worst teacher ever. But it was kind of a, one of those things that we had our own cleaning franchise. We decided that we were gonna add one more person to our family, and so I had to stop doing that. And after about 6 or 7 months speaking baby talk, I said, nope, I can't do this. I got to get back in the field. And I was working for a company, which, I felt it wasn't my thing. And I came across this ad for a receptionist. And I came in for the interview. And when I left, I knew that that's not the role that they were going to give me. I was confident because of the conversations we had, and they gave me the job. I started working, and sure enough, yeah, it only took about 2-3 weeks for rentals to be a thing, and then the rest is history.
So you wanted to be a teacher, didn't be a teacher, thankfully, right? And interviewed as a receptionist job at Jamco. Is that right?
Right.
And did they have a rental division at that point, or did you create that when you
And
started?
so when I started, the thought of rentals was a thing. They had already about 11 trucks back there, forklifts that they had put aside, but they really didn't have the person to kind of grow it, to push it along. And because I showed that, enthusiasm, and they said, it's yours, take it wherever you want to take it, and we'll just support you through the process.
Hmm. So were you effectively the first rental hire full time at that point then?
Yes.
Yeah. So they were doing some rentals, sort of a sideshow, but you were like, I'm going to make this a thing. Employee number one. How many people do you have working on the rental side of things now?
Well, we have down in Plant City a couple, the warehouse person and our salesperson. We have a total of four. There's four of us in the rental department.
Yeah. So you started as yourself. Now you've got some help there. What have been some of like the biggest challenges kind of getting rental effectively started from zero? You sort of started your own company on rental, right? Like it was nothing, a little sideshow to now it's a big part of your company. What have been some of the challenges that you kind of grown through this phase the last 10 or 11 years?
I mean, there's many challenges. The one that sticks out the most is making connections. If it weren't for those connections, a lot of the connections that I have now, if I go back and think about them, it was more like I had to claw my way through,
Hmm.
because some groups have, and I really don't think the group is the right word, but they have this tight, such a tight niche, it's a very tight group of, whether it's event or whether it's equipment, tools, and so when you have someone who really doesn't have that background, you have to show that you really want to be a part of it, you want to learn, um, and kind of push your way through, um, and that's what I did. And because I have that "you're not getting rid of me that easy" attitude, I was able to build on that. That's the first thing that comes to my mind, is the building my network, which I absolutely love everybody in it. And I know that I say this all the time. Would I be here? Yes, I'm sure I would be here. It would have taken probably twice as long as it did if I didn't have that network of people. But I mean, it was with these guys, the owners of Jamco. Jamco's been around since 1986, so they have this amazing background. Although we were brand new to rentals, they have this background of, wholesale forklifts and parts, and they've been in the industry for so long that even without the rental side, they knew that I needed to learn this and learn that. And so every day, the owner, he would come in and he would, Carol, product knowledge, product knowledge, product knowledge. And I would never pick up the phone. I wouldn't have a conversation without product knowledge. I would educate myself. It was one of those things, and he just put that in my head, and it's the same thing that I tell everybody. Shooting, shooting from the hip will work only for so long. And after that, you get to the point where they're going to read right through, they're going to see that you're full of it and you don't know what you're talking about, right? And that's one of the challenges that I come across throughout my 11 years here at Jamco, is that you can't fake it till you make it. This is not the industry to do that in. You go to a job site, you need to know what you are talking about. You need to know you need to know how to read a ruler, how to measure things. It's just very, very specific. And if you don't have that, if you don't know, if you're not educated, it's going to be 3, 4, 5 times as hard to make things happen.
Mm. It sounds like getting started were relentless. You're like, I'm going to do this and I'm going to force my way in and it's going to happen. And, you're going to either help me or you're going to be against me, but it's happening. Right. And it sounds like you were able to learn from a lot of other people in the importance of relationships and networking. You've learned the hard way, but if someone's starting off today and they're listening to this podcast, what lessons would you give them? What did obviously you've been successful here, but like what shortcuts would you offer of how do you build relationships? What events should you be going to? Who should you be talking to? What questions should you be asking? Can you answer some of that?
Yes, definitely ARA. It's the first association that comes to my mind, because they have really helped pave my way. The amount of people that I know and who are at a drop of a hat willing to assist, whether it's, you mentioned Josh Nichols. I have his cell phone number. If I had a question, he will turn around quickly and answer my question. And if he can't get to me right away, he will get to me at some point. I mean, I can go on my Facebook page and I can pick somebody, anybody, and send them the question. Even on the party side, one of my, he doesn't like it when I say this, and I want to say it anyways. One of my mentors is Brandon Algren. I absolutely love Brandon, and he's all events. But he's been part of the ARA for over 10 years, and he's been very involved. And it's one of those things where you have to have a network of people that you can count on. You have to have your own little resource book, and it starts with that network. Again, product knowledge it's a huge thing. Educating yourself, wanting to learn, when I started this, it was a job. For me, it was a job, and it slowly became a career. It was no longer a job for me. This is my career. I've been doing this long. I've invested not just to Jamco, but I've invested a lot of time to ARA. So it's being involved. You have to be involved. And one of the things that I would advise is, don't be afraid to fail, because don't be afraid to fall flat on your face, feel uncomfortable. It's I don't know if you know Anne. I'm gonna butcher her last name. I think it's Anne Booney. She was one of our speakers at the show, and she was actually she was a speaker at the Women in Rental in Nashville, and one of her topics is um, taking the risk and feeling uncomfortable. And I 100% agree with that. I know that more than half of the time I am accepting some kind of speak at this or speak at that, or hey, can you present here? Can you present there? Even this interview, it's uncomfortable for me, but I'm going to do it anyways because it's an opportunity for me and I'm going to take it, right? I'm probably not going to watch it for like 3 months, but I'm going to do it anyways. So it's just one of the things that I do advise is to take the chance, take the opportunity, learn from it. There's something to learn from every experience, whether it's a good experience or a bad experience. You're taking something away from it.
On taking the risk side of things, like episode 52, we had our Brett Baker. In my opinion, from what I know, I think he's the fastest growing independent rental company in the country. It's States Rentals in Texas, and he's gone from zero starting to $60 million in fleet in 3 years, and he is like financing on debt. And his whole thing was like talk about being relentless. He's like, if he's like, you can't beat someone who has nothing to lose. He's like, what do you? I was like, what are you going to take from me? I started at zero. This is all just a game, and I'm hungry, and you can't knock me out. And he is leveraging his company, and he's performing, right. And that's, some people don't have that risk appetite. You got to be able to sleep at night. So everyone's risk profile is different. There's a
Right.
range, right? But like ultimately, whatever your range is, be at the high end of that,
Right.
because don't bet your whole company or your life, where if you're wrong, you lose everything. But like asymmetric risk, right? Where the downside is capped, which it is. Like if this podcast goes terrible, like it's capped, right? But like if it goes great, like there's no upside for anything. Like it's unlimited, right? Starting a company from scratch, upside sort of unlimited. Downside, you can lose X, Y, Z, but if you can cap that, so I totally agree. Just even from like a economic or philosophical perspective of taking risks, because like as long as you can manage the downside, in theory, you should take as many bets as you can. And there's fire, whole idea, like fire bullets than cannonballs, right? So if you're wrong, is a bullet. If you're right, start shooting cannonballs, sort of thing. And I think that's ultimately like the people we've had on the show that makes them successful is they're not afraid of risk and they lean into it. And it's uncomfortable for everyone. Anyone who says it's not uncomfortable, that means you're probably not taking a risk, right? That's probably the element of that. It needs to feel a little uncomfortable.
Right.
What are some of the other attributes that have made you successful, or make other rental companies successful? You mentioned obviously like risk taking, networking. What are some other values that you found to be successful in your career?
The first one that comes to mind is relationship. The relation building relationships between companies, whether you consider them or they consider you competitors. Building those relationships is huge. I mean, I do quite a bit of re-rents, and sometimes even relationship over price, because I know that at the end of the day, that person, based on the relationship we have, they're gonna have my back at any time. Whenever I call them or whenever they need me, we're going to work well together. Right. So, um, that's definitely something that has helped me in my career, is that you're not gonna be someone that you're not gonna soon forget about Carol. Carol's gonna be there. Carol's gonna,
Mm.
reach out to you. Carol's gonna make sure that she doesn't become out of sight, out of mind type of, scenario. So um, relationship building is huge. And in this industry is probably one of the top things that someone can do to help their career if you're in the
Mm.
rental industry. Um,
You're
so
talking about building relationships with other rental companies and peers and ARA to learn from, but
yes,
also maybe local people too, maybe even competitors, right? Because you may end up
right.
re-renting from them. Is that right?
That is correct. 100% correct. You know, I had a conversation yesterday with this young man who works for a rental company, and he calls me and he says, "Carol, how are you?" And so, me being who I am, I'll say, "I'm sorry, I have no idea who you are." I know who he is, but it's
Yeah.
been so long since he's called me and
Yeah.
checked up on me that, I'm going to make him feel guilty about that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, so it's just, it's one of those things where if you're not building relationships, you're doing something wrong.
Mm.
If you That's fine. They're a competitor. More of a reason for you to keep them closer. Put them in your pocket. Put them on your Christmas list, whatever. Just stay in touch, because those are the relationships that at somewhere along the way, you're gonna need to pull that
Yes.
relationship. Yeah.
Relationships matter in everything, especially this rental industry. A guy who's awesome at it, also Elliot Vigil. If Elliot's coming to your thing. Like yesterday, I got in the mail. He sent me a bottle of hot sauce with his face and his beard on it. It's just like, and he just text me, just keeping your day spicy. I don't know. It costs $10 and some time, but like that made my day, because I know he was thinking of me, and he's probably said, I'm not the only guy who got that probably, right? He probably said that out to several people, but like, that's
Yeah.
okay. Cause I know he made the effort, and I think that's important. On the customer side, obviously relationships matter. One of the things people will ask is like, how do I grow my business faster? How do I grow my rental business faster? Is it outbound sales? This is a question Elliot probably answer actually, but is it outbound sales? Is it internet marketing with paid advertising and SEO? When you think about the growth side of things, if you wanted to grow faster or get more customers, how do you guys do that? Is it visiting job sites? Is it internet marketing? Is it a mix of both? How do you guys think about that?
It's a mix of, it's all of the above. It's the Google and the, all the stuff. So it's for me, most of the I don't want to, I don't want to sound like I'm knocking on the smaller companies, but for me, the bigger rental opportunities come from relationship building,
Mm,
because I was able to get in there. I was able to get that foot in the door. I was able to make that connection because of this person over here who I met at some event, who I kept in contact with, who, I send little things to her whenever we see each other. We buy ourselves something, or we bring a little gift or something. Always, I'll pick up the phone, and if I have a thought of this person, I'll just send them a text. Hey, thinking of you. Hope you're doing well. That's it. That's all it takes.
mm-hmm,
And when the opportunity came up, guess who that person thought of? Carol,
mm-hmm,
right?
mm-hmm,
I got a text today, said the same thing. This person sends me a text introducing me to some gentleman down in the Tampa area. Carol,
mm-hmm,
this person needs a forklift, blah, blah, blah. Please reach out to them. They're not even in the rental industry, they're in events. Again, it's that relationship, right? So
mm-hmm.
it's for me. I mean, aside from all the rest of the stuff that we have to deal with, we have to, with the marketing and the events and the cold calling and the knocking on doors and showing up at the job sites, all of that stuff. For me, what really works and has worked for a very long time is the relationship building
Mm,
and staying present, right?
mm-hmm.
Because yeah, I have this great account right now, but the minute I turn my back on that account, or I don't keep, in touch with that one person, somebody else is going to come in there, and somebody else is going to do exactly what I did. And if I'm not on my toes, they're going to scoop that account, because it's happened, right? And unfortunately, some of us would learn the hard way, but it's a lesson, and you learn from it and you move on. But and then you have all the, the market and the ups and the downs that you have to, come back to the drawing board and adjust, and all of that stuff takes you just come we combine all of that, and we work on it in pieces and try
Mm-hmm.
to see what, what sticks and what will make the difference,
Yeah.
because
At the end,
you don't know, everything is so, there's so many unknowns these days. You just don't know which way to go. So
Yeah. No, I don't think anyone knows. We had other guests talk about tariffs, and, talk
yeah,
some rental companies are up, some are down. It's hard to say for sure which way things are moving. I don't think anyone has a crystal ball. But I think the important thing though, you've said multiple times now, is relationships and how important that is. And like, we all have, a product that we sell, and there's an Excel sheets running our P&L. We are businesses, of course, but like, what really matters is people, and they're buying from people you
mhm,
trust. And I'm giving an example of this is Elliot. I get Elliot Vigil. Go to his website. He's great sales coaching. I'm talking about him right now because he's top of mind, because he sent me a bottle of hot sauce in the mail yesterday, right? But like, that's, we're on this podcast talking about it multiple times now for this $10 bottle of hot sauce, which is really good, Elliot. Thank you if you listen. But like, that's what matters, right? And he would also say, serve before you sell, right? Like, at
right,
the end of the day, like, right, we are a business. You have a business. We're all businesses, but like, build a relationship first, and grow that relationship over time. And sometimes, by the way, you may not ever sell them. It doesn't matter, but
right,
like, build trust, build credibility, be authentic. be consistent, be top of mind. And I don't think there's any shortcuts to any of this stuff. My dad always says it took 10 years of all nighters to be an overnight success. So I sort of believe that, right? And a lot of it's just showing up, doing the work. And you've mentioned that several times. The other thing that I had on my list here to ask you about was the importance of integrity and hard work as part of this too. Yeah, in the notes here, when we talked earlier, you said that this was important to your success. Can you tell me more about that? Why integrity matters? Why hard work matters? Of course, I believe it matters, but why would you say it does?
Yes. One of the great things about working for a company that's family owned, and that was, the history of how Jamco became Jamco, is it's hard, it's motivating. It's a great story. The owner started off in a basement. It wasn't something that was handed down. It was something that was built from scratch, and so and every day when I come in, and still to this day, he will say, Carol, your hard work is going to pay off. Just stick to it. We're here to support you, and so, and for 11, for all this time and that I've been in rentals, it's one thing that I always tell my team and remind them is integrity. Be honest, let the customer know where we're at, what's happening, because at the end of the day, yes, they're going to be ticked off. The production is stopped because they're waiting on us to go out there and service the equipment or swap it out or whatever the case may be. But stringing them along is only going to make things worse. Be honest with them, let them know that this is what's going on. At the end of the day, either they're gonna walk away and go somewhere else, or they're gonna remember that we were honest with them. We did everything we could. We got the job done, and there was no BS. It's just it's the way to lead. It's the way to live life, Kyle. Integrity, you apply it to everything. You apply it to your career, to your work, to your daily living. um it's one of those things that just I have to be able to sleep at night, and that's how I sleep.
Mm-hmm.
The black under my eyes is because I can't stop thinking rentals. So if there's if there's anything pending, or it's the end of the month and I know I had to get things done, I'll be up at 2 o'clock in the morning on my computer trying to close those gaps. Um, but I don't lose sleep because I misled somebody, or I wasn't truthful or anything like that.
It's funny talking about integrity because I think, in one sense you say, oh, everybody has integrity, but like obviously they don't. The book I was reading this morning, it says it was talking about like how like the combination of of traits can like make you a superpower, and it was like effectively the idea that someone is honest and they are hardworking and they are smart. And by the way, smart means like doesn't mean you have to know the answers, but you're curious and can get to all the answers at some point, right? It's not something you're not born smart or not smart. It's just, I think something you can develop, right? So if you're honest, hardworking, and smart, you are the top echelon with those three characteristics. Which growing up as a kid, you think everybody is those things, and you're like, you go out in the world, you're like, well, that guy's not super hardworking, and that guy is cutting corners. I can tell with his integrity, and that person doesn't have a growth mindset. But like being able to be those three things alone, you are top 10%, right? In any field, which I always thought was interesting. I was just reading that this morning, how, like, and you're sort of talking about this now, how important all those things are. There's no shortcuts to any of this, right?
No.
Yeah, and I think also what's cool about your company is like the owner started in the basement, and nothing gets the second generation, third generation rental owners. We've had them on here, but like it is hard sometimes to remember how hard it was getting started, right? And like I started my company 5 years ago, so I still remember. It's still hard, right? But like you have to. I think when you appreciate what it took to get there, it gives you the motivation to keep moving. And I'm curious for you. You put the work in 11 years. Like, what about your culture has made you want to stay and stay engaged, and not just be engaged, but take on more additional roles outside of your company with the ARA? What about Jamco has made you want to continue to invest there?
That's That's a loaded question, Kyle. So, I mean, it's I really care for the family, right?
Mm,
They're good people, and they I say they trust me, but it's because I am trustworthy, right? I earned that.
mm, mhm.
I built that, right?
Yeah.
So, and because of that, I've been able to they don't put a cap on what Carol can do. They
Mhm.
just, they support me and whatever it is that, I mean, I come up with ideas and some of them are not good and some of them, we got to think about them but it's they support me, right? And so that's hard to come by. That's, you go to
Mm,
other companies and it's one of those things where depending on the size of the company I wouldn't be Carol Fontanez. I would be employee number 1234, so
mm,
it's very they understand that outside of these walls, Carol and the staff have life, right?
mm,
And so and that comes from them being the owners and family, because it's the dad, the son, the uncle, and the grandson
mm,
who he just started he's the one that runs the trucking side of Jamco now. So it's very it's very tight. It's one of those, it's just a good place to work. Do we have our differences? Absolutely. Am I a hothead? Absolutely. Do I get time out? Absolutely. We're not always going to see eye to eye. We're different minds, different
yeah.
thoughts, and I'm I'm doing my thing and they know I'm doing my thing. And when I say that, I mean with ARA and stuff like that. But and they let me do my thing because they trust me. They know that I'm not going to drop the ball somewhere else, especially with the
Mm,
company. um but it's just that's what's kept me
mhm.
uh in addition to some other stuff, but that's mainly what's kept me around, and loyal to the company.
Yeah. Well, it's the whole idea culture eats strategy for breakfast, right? You have people who care about you, not just the employee, but as a whole person, and they respect that. And I think there's mutual trust there. And I think the great companies we've talked to have come on, they have great cultures, right? It's not one guy lifting this boulder up the hill himself. It's a whole team of people. And to get a great team of people engaged and bought in for a long period of time, you have to have a great organization, a great culture, right? I want to kind of shift a little bit to the ARA. You did mention that you've been the ARA of Florida president, I think, for 3 years now. Tell me about some of the initiatives that are going on right now, broader at the ARA. If you want to be specific to the ARA in Florida, obviously you got the big summer event, which is always a lot of fun in July. What are some things going on at the ARA level?
So there's quite a bit going on. So right now, I know that we're working on a local YPN networking event, which is going to be fantastic. It's first for Florida, so we're excited about that. Um, we have our um, weekend getaway in July 25th through the 27th, and that's the one thing that I have to say that the it's just well done. Even before I became president, I was on the board. I've been on the board for I think nine years now. 8 years, 8 or 9 years. And it's just always been like this.
Mm-hmm.
It's one of those things that if it works, why change it, right? If it's not broken, we don't need to fix it. It's good. It works.
Mm-hmm.
We have tried other things and it hasn't been as successful as the weekend getaway. It's a themed event, and when I say themed, it is everybody. If you are not dressed up based on the theme, you will stick out like a sore thumb. It is. I mean, I've posted pictures of our previous ones. I mean, we've had Pirate, Roaring Twenties, Flamingo. Last year, what was Casino? I mean, folks came in decked out. It was just great. It was fantastic. But in addition to that, the theme reception, we try to bring in really good um, you know, speakers. We try to piggyback some certifications. Last year we had the forklift certification. This year, Elliot Vigil is our keynote speaker. And Elliot, I won't say too much, but Elliot has something really cool prepared. And in addition to Elliot, we have Kevin Jern from ARA National, and he's going to be speaking on really good he's going to have really good content stuff that we don't expect, but we have to be prepared for, and then we close our Sunday with a brunch. It's just a great event. If you guys are not registered, whoever's listening, and you are a member of the ARA, you got to register. You have to attend. It's fantastic.
Can people who don't live in Florida come to the event?
Yeah, yeah. It's not. It's we like to. We really like to have the Florida members be a part of
Yeah.
this because technically the money that we raise goes back to our members. It's for
Right.
our state,
Hmm.
the members within our state, for the education, for just to network. But we don't say no. If someone in Georgia wants to attend the area Florida event, they're more than welcome to attend. They just have to register, right?
Yeah.
It's not it's not specifically to Florida, but we tend to focus on the Florida members for the support, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we were there last year. We had a great time. Particularly, it's a very family friendly event. We brought our whole family down. We had our two little
Yes.
daughters. We have three daughters now.
Oh,
uh,
congratulations.
yes, thank you. But particularly, their favorite part was the ice cream social as part of the vendor time, which drove a lot of traffic through to see all the vendors. And our daughters are sitting at our booth. I have pictures of them when they're older. One day, I'll show them. They were working with dad, eating ice cream at the booth, which was really fun. It's funny. We get to go to all the because we're national. We have customers in every state. We go to several different state events. Go to California's event, Missouri, Texas, Florida. And it's funny the different culture vibe for all of them. Like the Florida one is always very fun. The beach is right there. It's always like a fun, family friendly. It's something that feels like a vacation, and you're learning, and it's fun. They're all fun, but the Texas one, they're auctioning off a shotgun every year. It's like that's very Texas. You wouldn't see that in California, probably, right? So, the Florida one feels like Florida in a good way. It's like it's a fun place to go to. It's the only one I've ever brought my family to, for what it's worth. So that was fun. I do want to talk about one more topic, which is kind of a hot topic for a lot of people, which is equipment theft happening, and how you protect your fleet. It was sort of always been in people's mind. I feel like in the last 6 months, it's become more and more of a pain point for rental companies. How do rental companies think about protecting their fleet? How do they address theft and stolen equipment?
Well, I mean, from my experience, their go-to is the first thing they think about is GPS, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and from just being on the rental group on Facebook, I see a lot of newer companies asking how do we protect our fleet, and usually everybody goes to the GPS, the tracking, which is that is the obvious way to go. The first thing that pops into somebody's mind
Mm-hmm.
is the GPS. But in addition to that, there's other things that we should really be thinking about, and that's just vetting the customer. If you're not dealing with a company who is, well known, like if you're not dealing with a Walmart or Publix or whatever, then you really have to do your due diligence.
Yeah.
And especially so for us, um, it's a little tricky, right? Because again, we are not a rental house. We have a rental department.
Mm-hmm.
And so we don't get walk-ins, right? So I can't ask for the ID. I'm not,
Mm-hmm.
checking to see, or the staff here isn't checking to see if the ID matches the face or anything like that. So that gets a little tricky. And so everything is mostly done through email, e-signature, and we have to take that extra step to make sure that this person is who they say they are before we send
Mm-hmm.
equipment out. Um, we had I had a scare about, I want to say it was about maybe 2.5, 3 years ago, and they provided the license, they provided a credit card, everything that we could possibly ask for, and they rented 4 pieces of equipment, 4 forklifts, 5K pneumatics. And I'm thinking that's a great, it's a great order. We send the equipment out, and on the 30th day I get an email that the charges were reversed, right? They were kicked back. And I immediately went onto the GP to our system, the GPS system that we use, and sure enough, the forklifts were not where we delivered them to.
Mm-hmm.
They were making their way down to South Florida, and I immediately, you just have to get on it, don't think about it, you have to work quick, get whoever you need to get involved. And it was because of the quick thinking and everybody just jumping in and doing what they needed to do, that we were able to retrieve all 4 pieces. They were in different
Great.
areas, and one of them was even sold to one of our customers. but but we were able to find our equipment. But it was that experience that led me to educating myself, educating my staff. We have to be able to tell what's a fake license,
Mm-hmm.
what information, because not everybody rents from Florida. That rents in Florida is from Florida. We get a lot of
Mm-hmm.
out of state contractors doing work here, so you have to be able to pick up, and and if you're not sure, always ask the question, because that one, I wonder if, or if that gut feeling, you let it go. Sure enough, you can be sure that that's going to be something that you're going to have to worry about for the next however
Mm-hmm.
long that unit is out. So just ask the question, do the research, and that's one of the things that I have to say that the rental group is great about. There's been times that I've reached out to Ed Craddock, and I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing his last name wrong, but he has been fantastic. He has been really good at educating whoever's following that group, educating them and posting, things about how to spot a fake license. And then there's the ERG
Mm-hmm.
program that Ari just launched. I know you mentioned Josh Nichols. Him and I were we were talking about the ERG, and he said that he will not hire anyone without he. That is a mandatory thing now for him, right? His staff has to have to take that certification and be certified in ERG in order for them to start employment at his store. So it's one of the, you just have to stay involved and get your team to and not just you, your team has to learn how to pick these things up, because
Mm-hmm.
for me, I'm mostly on the road, right?
Yeah.
I'm not going to always be available, so they need to know what to look for and who to reach out to. And so yeah, it's been, Florida has been one of those states where it's been one thing after another. um as far as equipment theft, just 2 days ago, actually, right behind our building here, we have two rows of warehouses, and someone came in at 9:30 at night and hooked up a trailer that belonged to one of the businesses back here and drove off with it.
Mm.
So, and my first thing is, oh my God, we got to go back there and check our forklifts, make sure nobody put them in the back of the trailer and took off with it.
Yeah.
So, it's educating yourself and your staff is huge,
Yeah.
huge. And not just the GPS. Don't always count on the GPS, because GPS is, if you're in an area that the GPS is not going to be able to reach the satellite, it's not going to ping. It's not going to work. If the battery, if your GPS is trickling and the battery, goes under a certain voltage, you're not going to get a good reading.
Yeah.
So avoid it from the very beginning. You know.
Yeah. And I think GPS is great, but that means it's already been stolen, right? It's like almost like treating your heart after changing your diet after you've had the heart attack. Well, yeah, you probably still should do that, but the best part would be
Right.
not to have the heart attack to begin with, right?
Right.
And I think, there's a lot of great GPS companies out there. Happen is one that we've seen more often. They have a ghost tracking feature. You can unplug it and it can still track it remotely if there is the theft. Sergeant Dietz came on as a guest here maybe 20 episodes ago about how do you prevent equipment rental theft? And there's a lot of practical things there. There's a deeper conversation on that one. But I think also using technology, we're all can do our best and trust our gut, but we're still not perfect. So I think there's also simple technology that's available now, like even license scanning, right? Being able to scan the front and back of the license. You can actually now have someone take a selfie on their phone and it'll match that person matches the license using artificial intelligence. Like that exists today. So, it's all these things. And I think, unfortunately, equipment theft seems to be increasing. We've had multiple people I've talked to this year alone have had theft happen. And I feel like that wasn't always the case. So I think it's never going to be perfect, but being vigilant, being top of mind, using technology, educating yourself, as you mentioned, using the Facebook group, ERG is all important. So, final question I have is going to just kind of wrapping up here is, which I always ask everyone, they always kind of get caught off guard. So think about it for a second, but best career advice you've ever gotten, how's that shaped what you're doing now and the success you've had?
Yeah, I'm gonna take a second for that one, Kyle. Best career advice. If I had to pick one, it would be the one I mentioned earlier, which is, your hard work will pay off.
Mm,
Yeah, you have to put in the time. You have to put in the
mm,
time. And honestly, it's not easy. It's not easy. You have to have thick skin and a spine, especially in the equipment side of the industry. Um, because it's not, you're up against there's a lot of competition out there.
yeah.
I I don't like saying this, but it is more of a male dominated industry, especially for a female coming in. But I am living proof, and so are many, many other, that you can be successful keeping your integrity, working hard, and maintaining composure. You can be successful in this industry. You just have to put in the time.
No shortcuts, but just being your full authentic self, doing your best, living with integrity and patience, this will work out, right? And I think a lot of people don't have that. They're impatient or they want to cut corners, but you're living proof of the strategy. With trust the process, right? And it does
Right,
work.
right.
Um, I love that. We'll end there, Carol. Appreciate having you on. Look, I won't be at the show at the summer event because we have a vacation, as we've talked about, but we'll have other people there. I'm going to be sad to miss it, but I'll look forward to hearing how fun it was this year at the ARA Florida event in July. And again, thanks again for coming on, Carol.
Thank you, Kyle.